I'm curious, though, what your take is on the response of the Russian central bank to the Western sanctions. We saw that the chair of the Russian central bank, Elvira Nabiullina, she actually, I mean, this is someone who's not even necessarily really condemned a lot by Western economists. She is pretty well respected by even Western neoliberal economists, and she did manage to deal with the sanctions very well. She imposed capital controls immediately. She closed the Russian stock market, and also in a controversial move, she raised the interest rates from around 9% up to 20% for a few months. And then after that,
A
the
few
Russian
days.
central bank
I
dropped
don't
those
think that
interest
was a few
rates.
months. That was
Sorry,
very short, and now she's moved the interest rates way down. She
back
was
to 9%.
criticized for not moving them further down.
Yeah, well, go ahead. I'm just curious. So, yeah, so sorry. So she raised immediately. She raised it to 20%, and then has declined the interest rate since then. I'm curious what you think about that policy. And yeah, go ahead.
There's very little that a central banker can do when the West has declared a war, basically a war on a country to completely isolate it. The only response has come from President Putin and from the Foreign Secretary
Lavrov. Yeah.
Lavrov, and they pointed out, well, how is Russia going to trade and get what it needs? And this is what the recent meetings of the BRICS are all about. And Russia realizes that the world is now broken into two halves. America and the NATO have separated the West. Basically, you have a white people's confederation against all the rest of the world. And the West has said, we're isolating ourselves from you totally, and we think you can't get along without us. Well, look at the humor of this. Russia, China, Iran, India, Indonesia, and other countries are saying, you say, we can't get along without you. Who is providing your manufacturers? Who is providing your raw materials? Who is providing your oil and gas? Who's providing your agriculture? The helium, the titanium, the nickel. So they realize that, okay, the world is breaking in two, and Eurasia is where most of the world's population is concentrated, is going to go its own way. The problem is, how do you really go your own way? You need a means of payment. You need to create a whole international system that is an alternative to the Western international system. You need your own International Monetary Fund to provide credit among so that these Eurasian countries and their allies in the global South can deal with each other. You need a World Bank that, instead of lending money to promote U.S. Policies and U.S. investments, will promote mutual gains and self-sufficiency among the countries. So already every day in the last few weeks, you've had meetings with the Russians about this and said, okay, we're going to create a mutual trading area starting among the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, South Africa, and China. And we're going, how are we going to pay? We can't pay in dollars, because if we have money in a dollar bank or a euro bank in Europe, they can just grab the money. Like they grabbed Venezuela's money. They can just say, we're taking all your money because essentially we don't want you to exist as an alternative to the finance capital world that we are creating. So essentially the Russia, China, and these other countries are saying, okay, we're going to create our own international bank, and how are we going to fund it? Well, we're going to fund it. Every member of the bank will contribute, say, $1 billion or some amount of their own currency, and this will be our backing. We can also use gold as a means of settlement, as was long used among countries. And this bank can create its own special drawing rights, its own bancor, is what Keynes called it. It can create its own credit. Well, the problem is that if you have Brazil, for instance, or Argentina joining this group, or Ecuador that sells almost all of its bananas to Russia, how is it going to get by? Well, if there's a BRICS group or Shanghai Cooperation Organization Bank, obviously the Western governments are not going to accept this. So Russia realizes that as a result of Biden's Cold War II, there's going to be a continued rise in energy prices. You think gasoline prices are not high now? They're going up. You think food prices are not high now? They're going up more. And Europe is especially the case because Europe now cannot buy Russian gas to make the fertilizer to make its own crops grow. So you're going to have a number of countries in the global south, from Latin America to Africa, being squeezed and wanting to trade with the Eurasian group. And the problem is Russia says, all right, we're going to be able, we know that you can't afford to pay. We're glad to give you credit, but we don't want to give you credit that you're going to simply use the money you have to pay your dollar debts that are coming due. Because one of the effects that I didn't mention of the Federal Reserve raising interest rates is there's a huge flow of capital from Europe and England into the United States, so that if you're a billionaire, where are you going to put your savings? You want the highest interest rates you want. And if the United States raises interest rates, the billionaires are going to move their money out of England, out of the euro, and the euro is going down against the dollar. It's almost down to $1 a euro. The British pound is heading downwards towards £1 per dollar. So this increase in the dollar's exchange rate is also rising against the currencies of Brazil, Argentina, the African countries, all the other countries. So how are they going to pay this summer and this fall for their food, for their oil and gas, and for the higher cost of servicing their dollar debts? Well, for Eurasia, they're going to say, we want to help you buy our exports. We want to help you buy. Russia is now a major grain exporter, and obviously also an oil exporter, saying, we want to supply you and give you the credit for this, but you're really going to have to make a decision. Are you going to join the US NATO bloc, or are you going to join the Eurasian bloc? Are you going to join the White People's Club or the Eurasian Club? And it really comes down to that. And that's what is fracturing the world into these two halves. Europe is caught in the middle, and its economies are going to be torn apart. Employment is going to go down there. And I don't see wages going up very much in Europe. You're going to have a political crisis in Europe, but also you'll have an international diplomatic crisis over how are you going to restructure world trade and investment and debt. There will be two different financial philosophies, and that's what the new Cold War is all about. The philosophy of U.S.-sponsored finance capitalism, of making money financially without industrialization, and with trying to lower wages and reduce the labor force to a very highly indebted workforce living on the margin. Or you'll have the Eurasian philosophy of using the economic surplus to increase productivity, to build infrastructure, to create the kind of society that America seemed to be growing in the late 19th century, but is now rejected. So all of this is ultimately not simply a problem of interest rates and central bank policy. It really goes beyond central banks and to what kind of a social and economic system are you going to have? And the key to this, any social or economic system, is how you treat money and credit. Is money and credit going to be a public utility, or will it be a private monopoly run for the financial interests and the 1% instead of a public utility run for the 99%? That's what the new Cold War is going to be all about, and that's what international diplomacy, week after week, is trying to settle.